The antique shop was dimly lit and smelled of dust. Cobwebs clung to the corners of the room, and strange shadows danced on the walls. In the center of a dusty shelf sat a porcelain doll. Its eyes, two chips of blue glass, seemed to follow you around the room. The doll wore a faded blue dress and a matching bonnet. Its once bright red hair was now a dull, matted brown. But the most unsettling thing about the doll was its smile. It was a grotesque, unnatural grin that seemed to stretch too wide across its porcelain face.
The shopkeeper, a hunched old man with watery blue eyes, watched the doll closely. He had been in the antique business for over 50 years, but he had never seen an object that unsettled him quite like this doll. There was something about it, something evil that lurked beneath its innocent facade. He wished he had never bought it from that strange man, the one with the unsettling yellow eyes.
A young woman named Sarah entered the shop. She was drawn to the doll immediately. Its eerie beauty held her captive.
"What a beautiful doll," she remarked, her fingers brushing against the cold porcelain.
"It's cursed, you know," the shopkeeper muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "Brings bad luck."
Sarah laughed, dismissing his words as mere superstition.
"Don't be silly," she said, picking up the doll. It was surprisingly heavy, as if filled with something more than just cotton and cloth. Something about the doll's blue eyes captivated her. It felt strangely familiar, as if the doll was looking deep inside her, recognizing something.
Ignoring the shopkeeper's warnings, Sarah decided to buy the doll. It would look perfect on her mantelpiece, she thought, unaware of the darkness she was bringing into her home. Sarah placed the doll on the mantelpiece in occurrences continued. Sarah's dreams were plagued with nightmares of the doll. In her dreams, the doll's smile would widen into a menacing grin, and its blue eyes would burn with an evil fire. One evening, while Sarah was reading a book, she heard a soft whisper coming from the mantelpiece.
"We're friends, aren't we?"
The voice whispered, chilling her to the bone. Her blood ran cold. She quickly turned her head towards the doll. Its blue eyes seemed to shimmer in the dim light, and for a fleeting moment she could have sworn she saw its lips move. Fear tightened its grip on her heart, squeezing the air from her lungs. That night, the nightmare returned. The doll stood over her, its blue eyes burning with an infernal glow.
"You can't escape me," the doll hissed, its voice a raspy whisper. "You are mine now."
Sarah woke up with a start, her heart pounding against her ribs. The room was dark, the only light coming from the dying embers of the fireplace. But in the shadows she could see it, the doll. It was gone from its place on the mantelpiece. Panic surged through her. She fumbled for the bedside lamp, her hand trembling as she flicked on the switch. There, standing at the foot of her bed, was the doll. Its blue eyes seemed to burn into her soul, and its grotesque smile seemed wider than ever. Sarah screamed, a shrill sound that echoed through the empty house. She scrambled back on the bed, pressing herself against the wall, desperate to escape the doll's gaze. But the doll kept advancing, its tiny porcelain feet clicking against the wooden floor.
"You can't hide," the doll whispered, its voice raspy and cold. "You are mine forever."
The doll lunged, its cold porcelain hands wrapped around Sarah's throat, squeezing tighter and tighter. Sarah gasped for air, her vision blurring at the edges. The doll's laughter, filled with an unholy glee, echoed in her ears as darkness finally claimed her. The cursed doll had claimed another soul, its reign of terror far from over. The porcelain face, frozen in a grotesque grin, seemed to taunt the world, daring anyone to challenge its curse.